Michio Kaku joins me now. He was, of course, the keynote speaker at ADIPEC 2014. Sir, as a physicist, when you look around the world, you probably see things a lot different than a lot of people. But give us a feel for how important physics is to the oil and gas industry.
Physics is going to change everything, creating the smart oil well of the future. We're talking about the fact that chips will cost about a penny, meaning that chips will be everywhere and nowhere. We'll have smart oil fields, that is thousands of sensors giving you immediate back feedback as to which wells are leaking, which wells are old and decaying, and which wells are fine. And then the workers speak all sorts of languages, right? We'll have in our contact lens the internet. You simply blink and I will see you and your biography next to your image, and if you speak to me in Chinese, I'll see subtitles of the Chinese translated into English underneath your image. So that construction workers will see blueprints, they'll see the layouts, equipment, other people's faces, everything explained right there in their contact lens.
Now, when we look back at the history of the oil and gas industry, it probably had maybe a bit of a slow start, but technology really over the years has really changed it. How do you think it has sort of changed in the last few years? I see where we're going in the future, and it's very exciting, but in the last few years, how important is that technology to the oil industry?
First of all, we have better satellite telemetry and radars that allow us to find new oil finds, find out which ones are being depleted, and we have computers, supercomputers that model the flow of oil to give us three-dimensional images of how much and how big this oil deposit is. And then we have new ways of drilling, new ways of extracting. We have, for example, the use of fracking in the United States that has made the United States a net exporter of energy. However, there are also very subtle problems with technology as well. Fracking, for example, causes earthquakes. You can actually see that the number of earthquakes increases in areas like Texas, Oklahoma, where the fracking has been at a maximum.
When we look at other uses of the technology where we can use, particularly you talk about the human capital and the way it's going to actually help people, I'm sure it will also help them learn. Not always can people go out on the oil fields and spend as much time. People have to get up to speed very quickly. In terms of that learning and building the human capacity, again, how important is that technology that you see?
Education is very important to bring the worker up to speed. For example, when mechanical parts break down, instead of ordering them, we'll simply design them right there and manufacture them with 3D printers. 3D printers are becoming very sophisticated now. We can even print heart tissue. That is how advanced 3D printing has become. We'll be able to print toys for holidays and print machine parts as they break down at the oil well. And so also we'll use artificial intelligence to be able to access experts from around the world. When an oil pump breaks down, you have to get on the telephone, contact the world's most expert advice. You'll have that right there in your wallpaper. Wallpaper will be intelligent. Robo-expert will appear, artificially intelligent, accessing the entire internet and the entire database of knowledge about that part that just broke down. So we'll have robo-doctor, robo-lawyer, and robo-engineer right in your wallpaper.
Do you think there's enough of that technology being exploited at the moment? Or do you think maybe is this industry moving quick enough?
I think the industry is not moving quick enough to adapt this technology. Remember that if you are slow, you blow. In other words, you go bankrupt. And so look at all the industries in music, in television, publishing. Many of them are going bankrupt now because they didn't make the investments earlier. So I think it's like surfing. You cannot go against the wave. You crash. You wipe out if you go against the wave. You have to ride the wave of technology because technology made it possible. But technology is not staying still. We physicists are creating the oil well of the future. So either you adapt to it or you go bankrupt.
Well, that's a serious warning out there. Now, you showed in your presentation too, talked a little bit about the peak oil theory, which has come and gone. But when you look at that new technology that you're talking about, could there actually be even more oil out there that we probably don't even know about?
There's a tremendous amount of oil out there that was considered, quote, uneconomical. Look at the Canadian tar sands. For 2 generations, people looked at it and realized, no, it's not economical. Well, now it is economical because of the new techniques being devised. And so it means you have to keep up with the technology. And we had something called Hubbard's Peak, the point at which you hit the 50% point and it's all downhill from there. You exhaust all the oil in the ground. We never hit Hubbard's Peak because of technology. technology. Technology allows you to reduce the cost, increase the number of finds, and increase the extraction of these unconventional sources that we didn't have before. So the name of the game is technology. Lose it or use it.
And what do you mean? That sounds like your message to all of the people in the oil and gas industry there. Particularly some of the big companies have the advantage of having research and development organizations. They have the money, they have all the people in place. Some of the smaller ones perhaps not. But what would your message be to maybe even the small, mid-sized companies who are playing in this field? Because there's a bright future, it would appear there for sure.
If you are a gigantic ocean liner, it's very difficult to turn around. That's why even big companies have a hard time adjusting to these new technologies. If you are a speedboat, you can maneuver around the big boys. You have the capability of adapting new technology, being maneuverable, flexible, adaptable. And that's what you have to be in order to survive in this business. Once upon a time, Apple and Microsoft were small companies started by teenagers, but they were nimble, fast, and they could move and adapt.
Now here in Abu Dhabi, ADNOC, the national oil company, is looking at carbon capture and storage, and this was one of your favorites as well. How good will that be for a company like ADNOC? What do you think?
I think it could be potentially very important. We are worried about the weather. The glaciers are receding, the average temperature on the Earth is increasing, ocean levels are rising. All the indicators point up. And carbon dioxide has something to do with it, but carbon capture could be part of the solution. It's a win-win situation. On one hand, you take the carbon dioxide released by an oil plant, you inject it back into the ground, eliminating carbon dioxide, but using that to push oil so to increase your productivity. So it's a win-win situation. We save the environment, but also we have profits for the oil industry.
This is your first time in Abu Dhabi, I believe, or first time at ADIPEC.
And it's here at ADIPEC, right.
It's a big anniversary ADIPEC, so people were thrilled to hear you. And what do you feel about the exhibition and about this whole conference?
Well, I think we have to balance several factors. One, oil prices are going down, but you have to realize that that could be temporary because of the economic recession gripping Europe, for example, and what's happening with the revolution in the United States. But when historians look back at this era, they'll say that the biggest movement was the movement of hundreds of millions of people into the middle class. And once you hit the middle class, what do you want? You want a middle class lifestyle. And how do you energize that? Energy. And so we're seeing a temporary dip, but it's temporary as hundreds of millions of people enter the middle class for the first time in world history.
And what's your appreciation, what's your response for ADIPEC 2000, for the conference and the exhibition?
I think they have to look forward. You can't look day to day. You can't look at the numbers sheets. You got to look at the big picture. And the big picture says two things. One, technology. And second, demographics, as hundreds of millions of people reach for middle class status, needing energy to keep that middle class status intact.
Have you had a chance to meet some of the people here and talk to some of the senior leaders and perhaps take a look at all the exhibition stands and that? The concept of this conference here in the Middle East, one of the biggest conferences in the world now. What do you think about that happening here?
I think what is happening is I see a lot of energy. Energy not from the oil fields, but human energy. Innovation, that's the lifeblood of any industry. If you slow, you blow. You have to keep up with the times, and technology is going to increase profits, increase effectiveness, efficiency, and make life easier for the consumer and also the business.
Super. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.